Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Invoice Package Rate function. As the name suggests, the function determines which rates are displayed on the invoice. Rates can be displayed for the package as a whole or broken down for individual services. Where possible, it is preferable to use package rates. Less information is easier to manage, meaning less chance of confusion and mistakes, especially for guided tours. However, some clients do need to see the detailed rates for each service. These are typically established clients dealing with FIT projects. The kind of invoice that will be issued affects the way rates are communicated to the client from the very beginning of the project. It also affects how a number of other functions can be used, such as packs list and optionals, as we shall see. When Invoice Package Rates is selected, the rate setup page is an important tool and all its functions can be used. Optionals, departure dates, number of passengers, children age, simulation, as well as annual rate. Optionals are used when it is necessary to separate a service from the main package. For example, to show expensive items like flights separately. Create the optional in rate setup by entering a heading and save. In Service Basket, link the optional to the service and confirm. In case there are services that not all members of the group want to participate in, create the necessary packs list. For example, 4x4 game drive. In rate setup, create the optional, link to the passenger list created, and in Service Basket, link the game drive to the optional. This also links the service to the passenger list, as can be seen on the reference. See the tutorial on optionals for a detailed look at how this function works. If a multiple date quote is required, several departure dates can be entered. These dates could be as requested by the client, for example, 1 May. Or country defaults can be applied by clicking Init Periods. In this example, giving 1 June and 1 October. Or dates can be selected to match those when providers used in the project actually increase or decrease their rates. This can be seen in the Dates with Rate Change section. To add a date from this selection, simply click on the plus sign next to it. Note that it appears in the Departure Date section at the bottom. Reset Periods deletes any periods that have been entered. If a multiple pax-based quote is required, several additional numbers of passengers can be entered, for example 7 and 5. See the tutorial on multiple packs and dates for a detailed look at how this works. Ages can be entered to quote children's reductions based on a generic age rather than the actual ages of children in the rooming list. These could be as requested by the client, for example 2 and 10. Reset children age deletes any ages that have been entered. To apply the country default, click Init Children Age. In this example, it brings up 1, 5, and 11. This option is only available till the project is booked. See the tutorial on children and families for a detailed discussion of the topic. To apply changes made to dates, passengers, and children, click on Save and Calculate. Depending on the number of dates, passengers, and ages, the calculation may take some time. This is shown in the progress bar. The simulation for each optional date and passenger-based section displays package rates calculated as they will appear on the itinerary. Information in this section is ordered by date, chronological, backspace, descending, and child age ascending. The main period corresponding to the in date and the main pack spaces corresponding to the passenger list are indicated with the little pointer. Services as per project are displayed first, followed by the optionals according to their position. This position can be amended by clicking on the arrow next to the optional. Information displayed is the rate type, whether per person, single supplement or a reduction, the currency, the total cost per person, the total sale per person, and the markup. The sale per person can be amended if there is special negotiation with the client. Enter the required amount and click Save. Note that the markup is recalculated when the change is saved, and two new icons appear next to the sales rate. The M flags the rate as manually amended. Clicking on the reset icon recalculates the original rate. To print allows selecting which rates to show on the itinerary. For example, if the rate for an optional is the same across all pack spaces, the additional pack spaces can be unticked to avoid needless repetition. On the itinerary, note that these rates then do not appear. When a rate is unticked, it is automatically hidden under simulation as well. To display such rates again, tick Show All. Whatever was unticked will then appear again. This selection is only temporary. The next time you click Save and Calculate, everything will be selected to print again. When the total sale for a rate is 0, then by default it does not appear on the invoice. To force a 0 rate to appear on the invoice, tick Free on Invoice. Click on Edit for a printable version of the simulation. When amendments are made to a project, the rates for the main period and pack spaces are automatically updated. For example, note the current rates of 18, 981, 20, 809, 24, 100, 18, 019, 19, 807, and 23, 025. If now a change is made, such as a service being deleted, in rate setup, the rate for the main period and pack spaces has been recalculated. Those for the other periods and pack spaces remain unchanged, however, and therefore need to be recalculated. Click Save and Calculate. Note that all the rates have now been recalculated. For a booked project, what rates appears on the invoice depends on the rate setup and the details of the actual dates and passenger lists on the project. Whatever dates and numbers of passengers there are, the invoice will display the rates valid for the in date and for the passenger list linked to included and optional services. Note here the amount of single supplements as well as the amount of passengers on the 4x4 game drive. This will be reflected on the invoice as well. The annual rate function is used when we want to negotiate with clients rates that are valid for an entire year or season. When it is ticked, a new section, Period, appears in Rate Setup. The annual rate function can only be used in conjunction with Invoice Package Rates. When it is selected, this cannot be changed. See the tutorial on annual rates for a detailed look at how this function works. When the client needs to see the detailed rates for each service, Invoice Package Rates is not ticked. When this is the case, rates appearing on the itinerary and the invoice are determined not by the Rates Setup page, but by the Detailed Rates page. If a specific rate for a specific service is negotiated with the client, the change is made in Detailed Rates. On the tab Sales, click Modify and make the change. For example, for the flight to 3,200 and click Save. See the tutorial on detailed rates for a detailed look at this function. When Invoice Package Rates is not ticked, some of the rate setup functions do not apply, notably departure dates, number of passengers, and children ages. Simulation for each optional date and passenger base is also not available. If there are multiple passenger lists for the project, for example, if passengers have a double in a single room and one hotel and a triple room at another, the passenger lists are created in Passenger List and in Service Basket, linked to the services directly. It is not necessary to link the passenger list to the service via optionals, as is the case when invoicing package rates. Once such different passenger lists have been linked, it is impossible in rate setup to change to invoice package rate because of the inconsistency as flagged. For a project set to invoice detailed rates, optionals can still be used when it is necessary to separate out the rates for some services from the main list of rates. This might be necessary because they are expensive and should be highlighted, for example for flights, or to give a choice, for example, different categories of car rental, or to group together certain services, for example, 2 car rental legs. Whatever the case, these optionals only affects the way the rates are displayed on the detailed quote, whether in the itinerary or on its own. It will not affect the invoicing. On the detailed quote, rates are displayed service by service, taking into account the details of the passenger list linked to a specific service and reflecting the rates as applicable to the specific date of each service. If there is a single in the passenger list, the single supplement is displayed. Similarly, with triple or quadruple and child reductions. The detailed quote also reflects variations in the rates for the same service if the rate changes for different dates. The invoice displays the same information as the detailed quote. The only difference is that optionals do not appear as such on the invoice, but are simply listed with the other services in chronological order. Here, for example, the car rental. Once an invoice has been issued, you can now change from invoice detailed rate to invoice package rate, or vice versa. An indicator appears and the function is not available to tick or untick. If you need to change from the one to the other, first cancel the existing invoice and then in Rate Setup, change your selection and reissue the invoice. The Note section can be used whether the project is set to invoice package rates or detailed rates. It is used for internal communication about rates, for example for a series to indicate dates for promotional rates. Enter the note and save. And that is it. Thank you for watching.